Peyton was left a widow early on, with a little daughter in her arms. Well, at least the apartment became hers after her husband's death. Without that, life would have been even harder. She grew up in the countryside and moved to the city for her studies after finishing school. That's where she met her future husband. Gentle and kind Bryce adored Peyton with all his heart. The village beauty, on the other hand, just let herself be loved. Why not? He was serious, hardworking, and had an apartment in the city. It seemed like the best option, so she accepted his proposal. Their married life was peaceful and calm, without dramatic fights or passionate reconciliations that Peyton had read about in books and seen on TV. Being sensible, she knew that a reliable and loving Bryce was a better choice for family life than a hypothetical dashing rogue with smoldering eyes. A year later, they had a daughter, Naomi. Bryce was crazy about the baby, showering her with gifts and rarely letting her out of his sight. Peyton even felt a bit jealous, receiving less attention from her husband. But soon, her maternal feelings overwhelmed her, and she couldn't imagine a day without seeing her child's face or hearing Naomi's babbling. Everything was fine. Bryce worked at an auto repair shop, earning enough to support his family. Peyton stayed home with their daughter. They decided that only Dad would work, while Mom kept the home cozy and cared for their child. This might have continued for the rest of their lives, but then out of nowhere, Bryce was diagnosed with cancer. It was too late for treatment. The tumor was inoperable. Bryce passed away quietly, not wanting to burden his girls with his illness. Shocked, Peyton, facing death for the first time, felt utterly lost. She realized just how much she needed her kind, quiet, always smiling Bryce. She finally understood the love poets write about, but it was too late. She couldn't even remember her last words to him. She mourned her husband's death deeply, feeling that life had ended. The only thing that kept her going was her daughter, Naomi. Peyton saw her husband's features in the baby and cried all over again. This went on for some time, but life moves on. Peyton had to think about making a living. She had to provide for her daughter. She sent Naomi to kindergarten and found a job at a factory as a simple worker, having never finished her education after marrying Bryce. The work was tough, but Peyton didn't complain, taking on extra shifts and part-time jobs to ensure Naomi wanted for nothing. The factory management soon noticed the hard-working single mother and sent her for training. After completing the course, Peyton became a foreman. There was more responsibility, but the benefits were clear. Her salary doubled, and she had more time for her daughter. Naomi soon started school, bringing new challenges and expenses. Peyton lived for her daughter, ignoring the men who showed interest in her. But eventually, she began to think. She was still young and attractive. Her daughter was growing up. Maybe it was time to think about her personal life. There were many attractive men at the factory. Remembering her late husband, Peyton paid attention to the more serious ones. One such suitor was Ryder, also a widower and a foreman. He had no children and lived in a factory dormitory while waiting for housing. The man often showed Peyton signs of attention, and after considering the pros and cons, she finally decided to accept Ryder's invitation to go to the cinema. That's how Peyton and Ryder started dating. Ryder didn't hide his serious intentions and gently hinted to Peyton that he wouldn't mind starting a family with her. Eventually, Peyton took a significant step and invited Ryder to her home to introduce him to her daughter and see how he would interact with children, especially Naomi. In the evening, Peyton told her daughter, "Naomi, we have a guest coming over today. He's a very nice man, kind and caring." Her daughter, now in the 7th grade, understood everything perfectly. "You're in love, aren't you, Mom?" she smiled. "Why do you say in love right away?" Peyton blushed. "We're just friends." "Come on, Mom, I don't mind. Love him, marry him. I'm always alone, and you're so beautiful and not old." Peyton laughed with relief, hugged her daughter, and hearing the doorbell ring, went to answer it. Ryder entered the room, carrying a large bundle, and suddenly became nervous when he saw Naomi. "Why are you standing there?" Peyton smiled. "Meet Naomi, my daughter." "Oh, what an idiot I am," Ryder exclaimed, looking even more confused. "I didn't think to ask how old your daughter is." To the loud laughter of Peyton and Naomi, he unwrapped the gift. A tricycle. The ice was broken immediately. Soon, Ryder and Peyton quietly signed the papers at the registry office, and Ryder moved in with his wife. Ryder, who had never had children, quickly became attached to Naomi. From the very first days, with her permission, he began calling her his daughter. The girl, who had grown up without her father's love, also grew fond of Ryder. However, it took some time before she started calling him Dad. Peyton jealously watched her husband and daughter, seeing how much fun they had together. A feeling akin to envy filled her at times. Naomi, growing up, spent more and more time with Ryder, seeking his advice more often than her mother's. This left Peyton feeling sidelined, as Ryder became the indisputable authority for her daughter. "Ryder, what are you always whispering about?" she asked him resentfully. "Are you hiding something from me?" "Come on, Peyton, we have no secrets from you," he assured her, then lowered his voice. "She just likes a boy, a classmate. So she seeks my advice. Why doesn't she tell me, but confides in you? That's not right. Other girls tell their mothers everything, but Naomi tells you. Soon I'll feel like an outsider in our own family." "Stop it, Peyton," Ryder soothed her. "You're just overprotective." Hearing her father's words, Naomi quickly went up to her mother and hugged her. "Oh, Mom, don't be mad. It's just that Dad gives me good advice. If I tell you, you'll worry too much." "All right, conspirators." Peyton smiled. "Keep your secrets if it makes you happy." One day, Peyton stayed late at work and returned home after dark. As she entered the apartment, she was surprised to find the lights off. Suddenly, she heard long moans and sobs from the bedroom, accompanied by Ryder's quiet voice. A terrible suspicion seized her. On shaky legs, she burst into the bedroom and switched on the light. What she saw left her horrified. Ryder was sitting on the bed, hugging Naomi, who was clinging to him and crying. Ryder's trousers didn't even have a belt. "What's going on here?" Peyton shouted. "What are you doing? Have you lost your mind?" She rushed to the bed and grabbed her daughter's arm, only to find Naomi's blouse torn at the chest. "You scoundrel! How dare you? I'm calling the police right now. Naomi, go to your room." But Ryder smiled softly and spoke gently. "Peyton, calm down. Go, daughter, I need to talk to your mother." Naomi wiped her tears and nodded, leaving the room. "Don't be nervous. I'll explain everything," Ryder began. When Ryder was returning home from work through the park, he suddenly heard a muffled scream. It sounded like Naomi's voice. Worried sick, he ran towards the noise and found his daughter on the ground, struggling while two drunk men loomed over her. The girl was scratching and biting, trying to fend them off as they attempted to silence her. "Let her go!" Ryder shouted furiously. One of the men turned and sneered. "What's it to you, old man? Get lost before you get hurt." What happened next was a blur for them. Ryder charged at them like a hurricane, grabbing each with his strong hands and knocking their heads together. The men collapsed, and Ryder took off his jacket to cover his hysterically crying daughter. "It's okay now, honey. Don't cry. It's over. No one will hurt you again. I swear." He used his belt to tie one man's hands and secured the others with his own belt, then called the police. After dealing with the authorities, father and daughter returned home. Without turning on the lights, they tried to process the evening's events. That's how Peyton found them. "Oh, Ryder, forgive me. What was I thinking? I was such a fool, letting jealousy get the best of me." Peyton, I've never had children. Naomi is like a real daughter to me. I would protect her with my life." The men were tried and sent to prison. The family continued to live together happily, knowing they were safe. Ryder proved to be their hero. Eventually, Peyton and Ryder had a son. And that tricycle, once a gift for their first meeting, finally found its owner, bringing smiles and memories of how their family began.